Mansa Musa, or Kanka Musa as he is known by some, has been described as one of the most colorful personalities in West African history. He embraced Islam wholeheartedly, and Islam came to dominate many facets of society during his reign. This is how Al-Umari recalled Mansa Musa's pilgrimage to Mecca in 1325.
He left his country with 100 loads of gold which he spent during his pilgrimage. He forwarded to the royal treasury in Egypt many loads of unworked native gold and other valuables. This man flooded Cairo with his benefactions. Merchants of Misr and Cairo have told me of the profits they made from the Africans. Gold was at a high price in Egypt until they came. But from that time, its value fell, and it cheapened in price, and has remained cheap by reason of the large amount of gold which they brought into Egypt and spent there.
However, Mansa Musa earned a reputation both home and abroad for more than lavish spending and the ability to cause rampant inflation. In the remote city of Timbuktu in northern Mali, nestling amidst the Saharan desert sands, monuments to the architectural legacy that Mansa Musa introduced still stand today. Proud and tall among the sand dunes are many mosques and other buildings in the so-called Sudanese style that the king promoted.
We had a big mosque called Djenne that was built, and it was financed by the King Kanku Musa, Mansa Musa, when he went to the pilgrimage to Mecca in 1325. When coming back from that pilgrimage, he stopped by Cairo, where he met an architect from Andalusia, Abu Ishaq Esahili. He gave him 40,000 mithqal of gold to build this mosque. So he brought a new style from Saudi Arabia and from Egypt.
Building in the Mali Empire was never the same again. Now, structures in Niani, Timbuktu, and Gao were to be raised, built out of mud and a stone called Djenne. Such architecture drew the praises of many travelers from near and far. But this was not the only legacy he left behind.
Because of Mansa Musa, the Empire of Mali was known overseas. And the Empire of Mali had a diplomatic relation with some European countries, like Spain and, even probably France. So this is another big legacy that people don't see.
In 1375, Charles V, on one of his maps, Timbuktu was located, and there was on the same map a picture of Kanku Musa holding a piece of gold on that map.
This ancient map, commissioned by the King of Spain, can still be seen today in the National Library in Paris, where it is housed. And certainly, though he reigned for just over 25 years, within this time, Mansa Musa managed to transform Mali from a prosperous kingdom reliant on strong trading links with the Berbers and other merchants to a spectacular empire, which was the rival of others in the world in the 14th century. Under Mansa Musa, it could be said that the Malian Empire consolidated its glory and power and reached its zenith. It was through him that faith in one God took precedence, and Islam became the religion of state across the whole land, even though it was largely confined to the elite and not practiced by the masses. The Islamic character and structure of the empire nevertheless took shape, laying the foundation for the others who were to follow. Under Mansa Musa, Timbuktu became one of the major centers of Islamic scholarship under a group of people who for centuries had been persecuted for their pursuit of knowledge.
By the end of the 11th century, according to some historians, the former city of Walata, which does exist nowadays in Mauritania, was called Biru. By the end of the 11th century, the scholars of Biru were fighted by the Almoravids, by the Berber people, and they came here, Timbuktu, to get refuge. So they found their own sector called Birunche Kunda, and that sector was a part of Sankore, which was also the quarter and the mosque.
By 1332, Mansa Musa was dead. His death was the beginning of the end of the Malian Empire. a series of dynastic struggles for the throne occurred against a background of economic decline. As Mali weakened, Tuaregs and Saharan merchants were beginning to rebel against paying tribute to the inefficient and weak Malian kings. This is Juju, singing praises to the king and brave fighters of Songhay, the empire which by the middle of the 15th century eclipsed Mali.
The Songhay Empire was even much bigger than the Empire of Mali. So it was really a huge, territories going probably, from Nigeria almost to the Atlantic Ocean, and was probably one of the most elaborated political power in West Africa.
One of the first prominent Songhay kings was Sani Ali Bear. His reign was short but significant. Unusually for a West African ruler during this period, he was a non-Muslim who continued to practice traditional religion. Leading a powerful army and navy, he earned the reputation as a ruthless commander. Yet he retained control over a vast and powerful empire and the loyalty of millions of subjects within the numerous kingdoms they dominated.
I think people just recognize, the domination of the Songhay Empire, and then they will pay their taxes to the empire. You stay loyal because you can farm peacefully, you can trade peacefully. So they did recognize the Songhay Empire as a central power because they protect them.
Although maintaining their own cultural identity and paying allegiance to this growing Songhay Empire, not everyone was happy.
The capital city was located in Gao, about 350 miles east of Timbuktu. Timbuktu was a learning center, and let me tell you that there was a kind of opposition between the population of Timbuktu and Sani Ali Bear, because most of the population here were Muslims, and Sani Ali Bear was an animist. But in the mentality of local people, he was a magician, he was a criminal. In 1468, he has occupied Timbuktu. All the scholars who were against his entrance in Timbuktu were either arrested, deported, or killed.
Many scholars fled Timbuktu to avoid death. Sani Ali Bear's reputation as a tyrannical leader who rejected Islam and persecuted Muslims marred the more positive aspects of his legacy.
Sani Ali Bear is having his own cultural identity. He has African values. But the first thing he did is the political organization. The land was well organized. He came up with a canal project that was linking Timbuktu, for example, to a part of Mauritania. He came also with another project close to Timbuktu for the farmers.
Though his canal project remained a pipe dream, his plans for building dikes to irrigate the land for farmers within parts of the empire were successful. They set Songhay on a path of economic expansion that was developed by his successors. It's not clear who directly succeeded Sani Ali Bear, but by the late 15th century, the empire was being led by Askia Muhammad, a man who wrought changes, most notably in the development of universities and centers of learning, and establishing Islam as the religion of state to be practiced not just by the elite, but by the masses.
He developed scholarship because Askia get along very well, with this intellectual center which was Timbuktu. But you cannot think about all of these universities as a single campus, like we see today. We have several learning centers in a town, and each ulema, each scholar has a lot of kids coming to him and learning from him.
Sankore Mosque in Timbuktu also served as a university. The students were grouped in 4 different sets at different levels, and each set would study for an hour at a time, while the other students took classes in the Koranic schools.
We had 180 Koranic schools in Timbuktu by that time, and each Koranic school is counting an average of 75 or 80 students. students came from everywhere. The University of Timbuktu was having relationship with Toledo in Grenada, in Andalusia, Spain, with Kairouan in Tunisia, the University of Al-Azhar in Egypt, and other universities in Saudi Arabia, Zaria in Nigeria, and Kano.
Book writing and book binding were lucrative businesses, and Askia Muhammad encouraged the production of printed material. The Sankore Mosque, where such books were read, still stands.